Total solar eclipses are one of, if not the most beautiful phenomena available to us here on planet Earth. For a small region of Earth's surface, they see the moon fully block the sun, everything goes dark, the stars and the planets come out, animals start acting strange, and most crucially, you can see with your naked eye the atmosphere or corona of the sun. Truly a spectacle. If you've been lucky enough to see a total eclipse, please, I want to hear about your experience in the comments below. But the thing about total eclipses is they are rare, relatively speaking. They happen somewhere on the planet once every 1.5 years, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But if you were to randomly pick any spot on the planet, it would only see a total solar eclipse on average once every 375 years. Some places get more lucky than others though. The United Kingdom will not see an eclipse or a total eclipse until the year 2090. But New Zealand, which is a similar sort of land area, will get 3 total eclipses in just a 10-year span. I don't want you to fall into the trap either of thinking that because you've seen a partial eclipse, you've experienced a total eclipse. A partial eclipse is just a fraction of the spectacle of totality. So, with that being said, I'm making this video to list the next 10 total solar eclipses, their locations and their dates to help you plan for the future. So, let's jump in. The next total eclipse is actually 1 year exactly from the time that I'm making this video, the 12th of August 2026. This is a map here. This is produced by timeanddate.com, a fantastic resource I really recommend. This red band in the middle, this darkest red band, is the area where you will see the total eclipse, where the moon will fully block the sun. And these lighter colors are where you'll see a partial eclipse. But for this video, we're just focusing on the total solar eclipse. We can see immediately that it passes down here through the North Atlantic, but interestingly enough, it actually begins up here in northern Siberia. Because this is the high Arctic in the middle of the summer, we're in August, it is actually midnight at the time of this total solar eclipse. It's the midnight sun being eclipsed, which I think is very, very cool. But realistically, no one's going to be up here, right? Everyone is more interested in this part of the eclipse. We come down through the top of Greenland. There is some sort of civilization and some accessible camps down here on land. We pass through Iceland. We actually, as you can see, Reykjavik is in the path of totality. So, weather dependent, and all these eclipses are weather dependent, you will see the atmosphere of the sun from Reykjavik 1 year from today. Coming down through the northern Atlantic, we narrowly miss the United Kingdom and Ireland, but we get down into the north of Spain through some mountainous parts of Spain here. We intersect the west coast and then some Spanish islands off in the Mediterranean Sea as well. But be careful, because this part of Spain, it is relatively late in the day. You can see it's 8:30 p.m. This is not long before sunset, just half an hour or so. So the sun will be very low in the sky during this eclipse. So just bear that in mind if you're planning to see this event. Eclipse number 2 is about 1 year after that, just under 2 years from today. We're now in 2027 on the 2nd of August. This eclipse passes through far more populated areas than Iceland and Greenland, and let's take a look over them now. The eclipse path comes in from the Atlantic, straddles the Strait of Gibraltar, passing through both Gibraltar itself, the south of Spain, and the top of Morocco, before passing through where are we here? Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, getting the edge just up here as well, Yemen, and even Somalia. And then way out here in the ocean, the Indian Ocean, we also pass through the British Indian Ocean territory. So technically, this is a British eclipse of sorts, although not going through Great Britain. This is also a very long eclipse. It's the longest eclipse that we have left this century. If I just click somewhere randomly on the eclipse path, you can see 6 minutes and 24 seconds this region will be under the shadow of the moon for. Typically, solar eclipses last somewhere between 2 and 4 minutes, so this is a particularly long event. Goes through some particularly interesting cultural sites as well. Luxor, there's a lot of ancient Egyptian monuments here, the Valley of the Kings, and where are we? Mecca as well in Saudi Arabia. Okay, moving on to eclipse number 3. We can see here that we intersect Australia and New Zealand, 2 countries that feature heavily on this list. Out of these 10 eclipses, Australia sees 4 of them and New Zealand sees 3 of them. This is even more impressive for New Zealand because it's so much smaller than Australia. But this eclipse is on the 22nd of July 2028. We come through some small Australian islands up in the Indian Ocean before intersecting the north coast of Australia, pretty far away from any civilization here, until we get to the east coast where it passes straight through Sydney. So Sydney getting nearly 4 minutes of totality, 3 minutes and 49 seconds. Maybe that changes slightly as I click around here, but just under 3 minutes, 50 seconds of totality for Sydney. So this is going to be a really cool event. Sydney going to be very busy on this date in 2028. And then we also continue here and pass through the South Island of New Zealand before heading out into the Indian Ocean and ending, or the Pacific Ocean, and ending pretty soon here. Okay, so moving on to eclipse number 4. We have another Australian eclipse, this time on the 25th of November 2030. This eclipse starts off in Africa, off the coast of Africa. We go through Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Lesotho getting the top of the eclipse here, and even passing through Durban on the east coast of South Africa here. We then pass through the Indian Ocean, not covering much, until we intersect Australia again, this time not hitting any major urban centres like the Sydney eclipse did, but again, not too far from some of these places here on the east and south coast. So that's the second eclipse for Australia. Moving on to eclipse number 5. This eclipse is probably the worst on this list. This is 2031 on the 14th of November. This one is what we call a hybrid eclipse. So either end of this eclipse path, including Panama over here, there is actually not a total eclipse at all. That's because for these locations, the moon appears too small in the sky to fully block the sun. So instead of a total eclipse, we get what we call an annular or ring of fire eclipse, which is where the outer edge of the sun encircles the moon, which is not big enough to block it. There is a total solar eclipse right here in the middle of the Pacific. This is called a hybrid eclipse because we get both of these as the shadow of the moon passes across Earth. But we're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean here. It's a minute of totality. I don't think anyone is going to see this. Maybe there'll be some cruise ships, but we're a long way out from land here, so I'm not certain about that. But let's move on to eclipse number 6. This one, probably the second worst on the list. Not a lot better. It does pass through the United States, but as you can see, we're passing up through rural Alaska up here and the very east coast of Russia. There are no roads up here. So to my understanding, the only way to get up here will be via plane. So again, a very difficult path. Eclipse path to get to, and this is on the 30th of March 2033. Technically a United States eclipse, but the next time the United States gets a mainland eclipse is not till 2044, so beyond this list. Okay, moving on to number 6. Thankfully, we have some proper eclipse paths here once more. Lots of people living under the eclipse path. We narrowly miss the coast of Brazil here, but maybe there'll be some cruise ships or something heading off the coast to see this one. And we first intersect land, narrowly missing Ghana, Togo, and Benin, just by a few miles. So look how close we are, even passing through the waters of these countries, but not intersecting land. The first landfall, well, technically, is here in, where are we? Benin here, but Nigeria really is getting the bulk of the eclipse. Lagos, we'll see totality, we'll see the shadow of the moon, and we pass all the way up through Nigeria before the top part of Cameroon, Chad, Sudan, Egypt getting another eclipse, same for Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, the top of India, before passing into China. So a lot of people living under this eclipse. I think this might be the most populated eclipse on this list out of the next 10 eclipses that we have. Okay, eclipse number 10, another relatively populated one here. You can see a lot of wasted eclipse out here over the Pacific Ocean, missing Hawaii by some significant distance. But over on the east side, or sorry, the west side of the eclipse, we are pretty much going edge to edge of China, including Beijing is getting the eclipse right over the top of it there. North Korea getting a total solar eclipse. I'd be really interested in seeing what the reaction to the eclipse will be in North Korea. What will eclipse education and outreach look like in North Korea? That would be really nice or really interesting to hear about. And then we pass into Japan. Not quite Tokyo, but not far away. Again, very populated parts of China and Japan here. And look at even, I hadn't realized this before, even the capital city of North Korea will be seeing the total solar eclipse. That's most of the North Korean population. Super interesting one. This one is dated the 2nd of September 2035. Okay, the penultimate eclipse, and you can see comically again, Australia and New Zealand getting a perfect eclipse path. This time intersecting from the west coast again, avoiding most population centres. Alice Springs. Wow, so Uluru is going to be very near the path of totality. Not sure where Uluru is in Alice Springs, but we're getting a total eclipse there. But more importantly, in terms of population and accessibility, Brisbane and the Gold Coast on the east coast of Australia, both in the path of totality, and this is the 13th of July 2037. We then continue on to New Zealand, passing not too far away from Auckland, but crossing the North Island here. No major cities in this path. You'll have to travel to it, and then ending out here. And I just want to compare this eclipse, which is, July 13th, 2037. Just under a year and a half later, we have this eclipse. I'll just put these side by side for a moment. So within a year and a half, both Australia and New Zealand getting two very similar total solar eclipses. You can see the path is inverted, but other than that, not too different. And this one is December 26th. So this is a Boxing Day total solar eclipse for both Australia and New Zealand. No major population centres this time, but passing pretty close to Melbourne, pretty close to Canberra. Again, Sydney and Adelaide not too far away. Australia is obviously quite big, but not too far to travel in the grand scheme of things. And this time we intersect both the North and South Island. Just about, very close to Wellington, but again, not quite. You'll have to travel to the eclipse path before ending over the Pacific Ocean. Interestingly enough, this does cross the international date line. So for these small regions up here, not sure there's any islands passing straight under this, but for way up here, because you've crossed the international date line, you've moved backwards in time, this is a Christmas Day eclipse. So it's Christmas Day, one side of the international date line, and then it's Boxing Day, the other side of the international date line. So there you go. Those are the next 10 total solar eclipses spanning from 2026, August 12th, all the way to 2038 on Boxing Day. Do you have any plans or ambitions or hopes and dreams to see any of these eclipses? If you do, please let me know in the comments. Follow along, subscribe if you're interested in hearing more about eclipses and the sun in the future. And I hope this video has been helpful for future eclipse planning. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.